welcome back to another episode of Borderless Diaries. And hi, everyone, and Happy New Year. It feels so surreal to say that because it's another year of living abroad. It's another year of figuring out who I am in this country. I've been getting a lot of questions from you, and one of them is how do you build a support system abroad when the people you love aren't physically there? And honestly, that has been one of the biggest themes in my life over the past year. So, in today's episode, I want to talk to you about it, the way that I lived it. And for me, it was one of the hardest parts of moving abroad because it was never about the logistics. It wasn't really finding a new place to live or figuring out healthcare or navigating a new job. It was in that quiet moments after the excitement faded away when I realized my people weren't around me anymore. And every time I moved, Ireland or the United States, every new chapter, it felt like a mix between courage and loneliness. And I remember in my first years in the United States when I go to bed and I suddenly missed the people who knew everything about me, the friends that I didn't need to explain myself to, or the comfort of being understood without needing so much context. And the truth is, even if you're having the strongest personalities or the loudest laughs or the biggest dreams and that independence, you still feel it, the ache of starting over again and being surrounded by people that don't really fully know you yet. And that part hit me the hardest because a support system abroad is different. It's not built up on the years of friendships or family ties that you have. It's built in those moments. It's the colleague who checks in after a tough week, for example, or is it the friend who shows up on a random Tuesday because you didn't want to eat out dinner alone? It's someone who understands the exhaustion of navigating life in a second language or a second culture or in a second identity that you're building. And I also learned how much of the small things matter. Like the day somebody told me, hey, if you need me, I'm around. And it sounds super tiny, but for me, that sentence lifted so much weight off my shoulders because suddenly I wasn't there to figure it out all by myself. And yes, maybe even if it sounds as silly as not knowing where to buy your groceries, becomes emotional when you have nobody to talk to about that or even to ask those simple questions. And I've had one of the deeper conversations in my life just talking about supermarkets. And it's just, I'm trying to belong here. And it's easier when somebody walks through with me in that journey. And I didn't build that support system overnight. And if I'm honest, I made myself quite hard in the beginning because I was trying to do everything by myself and alone. And I want to give you a couple of hints or suggestions that you can take with you. um, and one of the key things was I needed to force myself to say yes, even when I wanted to stay home. The first friendships I built abroad came from moments where I almost canceled a coffee that I was too tired for, or dinner where I felt awkward, a walk that I said yes to, even though I barely knew this person. And those small yeses gave me some of the yeah, most beautiful friendships that I now have. And I joined communities because I felt ready for that. I showed up for things alone and events or language meetups or gym classes. And at first, I hated the discomfort, but every time there was this one conversation that made me think about, like, hey, I'm not invisible here. I need to start over and I need to keep trying. And in the beginning, I wanted to meet people because I was afraid to feel alone. But the real shift happened when I started to invest into the right people, the ones that made me feel like myself again. Some of those friendships became maybe an emotional anchor to have when you're building up your life abroad. And when I felt I let my home support system even evolve. And this was a very big one for me. I still love the people back home very deeply, but I also learned that distance comes with changes in some of those friendships. And it's not in a bad way, it's in a realistic way. Some friendships stayed incredibly strong through voice notes and video calls or deeply, text messages, but also to know that it's okay not to text back. That if you haven't talked to that person for 3 months, that it's still okay. Your friendship isn't counted on how many times you text or how many times you call that person, but you know in your bones and in your gut feeling that they will always be there for you no matter what. And that distance can change those things, obviously. But having the right people around you physically, but also virtually, that really helped shape my journey where I felt very comfortable living my life abroad now and that I am very far away. And in some friendships that will change and you will lose some of those relationships that you have back home and to feel okay about that, that you feel lighter once you accepted that some of these relationships will change. So, if you're listening today and you're at the start of your journey, or maybe the start of a new year, a new country, or maybe feel even a little bit lost in between, I want you to know that you're not behind. You're not failing. You're not hard to connect with. You're just in transition, and transitions take time. Your support system will become, and not all at once. And you will go through the small, brave, repeated moments, and sometimes you will feel lonely building that, but that is okay. And one of my questions for you this week is, what is one connection, just one, that made your life abroad feel a little bit lighter in this year? And if nothing comes to mind, what is one tiny step that you could take in this new year to start building that support system that you deserve? So, thank you so much for listening. And I hope this helps you figuring out in the new year how you can build your support system. This was Borderless Diaries, and Happy New Year.